Okay, welcome to the latest edition of What's Next for the Arkansas Razorbacks with our guest, Chris Goodman.
Hello.
And, we're coming off of the latest loss of the 2020 season, Arkansas against Florida. Chris, what did you think about this weekend's loss to Florida?
Florida is pretty much, like I said the other day, the LSU of last year. They've just got that offense rolling. Kyle Trask he's doing everything right to win the Heisman. Florida's doing everything right to win the championship. They just probably play Alabama in the SEC championship game, which most likely could be a national championship game.
Who do you think is better, Florida or Alabama?
Alabama's probably the more all-around team. But Florida, that offense it's wild. The defense has some questions because Arkansas was able to put up 35 on them. And, we had two big pass plays and one big run play. Alabama normally doesn't give those up, but I may have to give it to Florida just with the offensive firepower they have.
Is it Pitts and the wide receivers that make Trask look good, or is Kyle Trask really that good?
I'd almost say it's a mixture of both. Looking at the Arkansas game, for instance, there were a lot of passes that were caught that were just, you want to call them lucky catches, but they were, it takes skill to bring those balls in too. And then Trask was able to put it, in such a good spot where they could make those catches. So, I want to say it's a mixture of both.
Felipe Franks, he has overperformed just like the Hogs have in general this year. We have talked about this earlier. I feel like he's one of the best. His biggest strength to me is throwing the Hail Mary. It seemed like we didn't, when we succeed and score, it seems like he's throwing the deep bomb. What do you think about, what's your take on that and going up against LSU this weekend?
There's a lot of truth to that. He's got a Ryan Mallett type play. He can move when he needs to, but that arm, like I said against Florida, we scored off the two big plays to Mike Woods, where it was just a simple, fake the handoff and bomb it. And, if we had more wide receivers that could break free, I know our wide receivers struggle with that, break free and get the speed to go downfield. Our offense could be rolling like Florida's. Who knows? But yeah, Felipe Franks has been amazing for Arkansas. Definitely one of the better passers we've had in a while. And a lot of people overshadow it, but he's actually, his passer rating right now, or his pass completion percentage, I should say, is like 69 to 70%, which the record at Arkansas is like 64% in a season.
Wow.
So he's doing that in an all SEC schedule as a first-year quarterback transfer. That's unbelievable. And then, going into LSU this weekend, it's kind of this is kind of almost it's kind of a toss-up game because LSU is still the defending national champions. They're still LSU. They still recruited good. They're going to play good. But then Arkansas is on a hot streak. We did just come off this loss, but Arkansas has lost to all the teams that we're supposed to lose to. We've lost to Florida. We've lost to Georgia. Auburn, we all know what happened there. And then we lost to Texas A&M. Three of those teams are very, very good teams and, are all in the top 10 now, I believe. And Auburn is, we're not going to talk about that. But, and LSU's losses have been, they lost to Missouri. They lost to, they got blown out by Auburn, who a team that Arkansas beat. I'll go on record and say that. So it's kind of a toss-up, and they're having complications at a quarterback. They're going to play two this weekend to see which one gets them going. So, it's a good opportunity.
Why are they so sorry this year?
Well, like we've talked about, I think they had 14 guys get drafted last year, or they've lost 14 guys, or 14 guys got drafted.
Their whole team went pro.
Pretty much. And when you lose that much, and you lose, I want to say they've lost two coordinators too. They lost Brady, the offensive passing game coordinator or whatever, and Joe Burrow. On top of that, you lose all these key pieces that hurts. And then you come into the season and you have guys like Jamar Chase opt out of the season due to COVID, and you have other guys opt out due to COVID. They've had some injuries. Like I said, the quarterback play has been inconsistent. I mean, it's just hard, no matter who you are, to get things going when you have that many guys leave and that many guys hurt or, not playing good.
Is Orgeron on the hot seat?
No, I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat. It's definitely, there's a lot of problems off the field going on at LSU right now, too, that, some sexual allegations that got swept under the rug and everything else that I've been hearing today. I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat, but it's definitely a lot of bad mojo going on around LSU right now that Orgeron, in order to not be on the hot seat, number one, he needs to take care of all that and get all that, said and done, and then he needs to take care of business on the field.
It's like Arkansas's 3-4 as of now, and LSU's going into the game. LSU's 2-3, and Arkansas's favored to win. This is the first time that I can remember that Arkansas has been favored to beat LSU in a long time. It just goes to show you how bad LSU is this year.
Yeah.
I don't quite get it, and I don't know if anybody else in the country. It's really been one of the shocking disappointments of the season. Another thing I was wanting to touch that we had briefly talked about, going back to Felipe Franks and our offense. I was wanting to Felipe and the offensive coordinator to throw more Hail Marys, because it seems like that's pretty much the only time we score is when he's throwing the ball 40, 50 yards down the field. And I was wondering why, we don't do that consistently, regularly, every time we get the ball, at least one deep pass like that to Burks. And you were saying that, which I found interesting, was our offensive line might not be good as far as the pass protection to give Franks the number of seconds to be able to throw the deep ball downfield, to let the wide receiver go out there and catch it, give them enough time. So talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a number of things that I've kind of noticed at Arkansas right now while we can't do that. Mike Woods and Davion Warren, which pairs to him, he's out for the season with an ACL tear, are our best guys that can kind of get off the line and get separation to go downfield. Burks can too, but if you look at teams like Florida and Texas A&M that Arkansas has played, you go back and watch those games. The reason they passed the ball on us like they have is it was a wall around Trask and Kellen Mond the entire game. I mean, there was nobody. Arkansas against Florida, I don't remember Texas A&M, but Arkansas against Florida had one sack, and I want to say we had maybe 2 or 3 times where we got the rush in and were able to affect Kyle Trask. Other than that, he was just sitting there in the pocket. I mean, he could, sit down and have dinner if he wanted to. We were not getting to him. And, that just goes to show they have veteran offensive lines, guys who have played together for a while. They've been in the program for a while. Dan Mullen's been at Florida for 3 years now. You add all those kind of things in, and that's how that happens. Where Arkansas struggles is it's on the offensive line and it's on Felipe Franks. Everybody knows Franks holds the ball a little longer than he should. And then, I play offensive line. 3 to 4 to 5 seconds, when you have to block that long, it is extremely hard, especially when you have a D tackle or a D end who their main goal is to get past you. They're flinging their arms, they're swiping, they're swim moving and everything else. It's hard to hold on to that. It's hard to block for that long, no matter how good you are. Just some offensive lines can do it better than Arkansas's can. Not saying that we're bad on the offensive line. We just have younger guys. I want to say the center, Ricky Stromberg, is only a sophomore or a junior. So we have younger guys. We're under new coaches. Next year we should be great, especially with Pittman being here. And then Franks holds the ball sometimes too long, But the big plays are there, and we will hit them. Franks, I will say, missed a play to Burks during the Florida game where Burks could have gone for 60 to score. But he didn't throw it to him. Instead, he threw it to the guy running across the field. I think it was still completed or it wasn't, but he missed Burks wide open. And the big we do need more big plays, because when you start throwing it down the field more, that moves the safeties back, the linebackers move back a little bit, and then that's when you get the Traylon Smith or the Rakeem Boyd, up the middle for 80. But it'll come together.
It seemed like Mississippi State stands out in my mind to where we were just hitting them and tackling. I mean, and I know we've had a lot of injuries. It just seems like our guys weren't hitting Florida. I don't know if they were just blocking us. They just manhandled us. I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, as far as our defensive play.
Yeah, I think that has to deal a lot with, Pittman was out against Florida. He wasn't there, and Barry Odom had to step up and play head coach. So he was kind of, maybe he was taken out of a few more roles where he normally would have been in on tackling drills or whatever. But I did notice that it was a lot more, a lot more trying to shoulder guys. Florida's second-string quarterback was able to run a touchdown in because RDB ran up and hit him pretty good. You could hear it on TV. I mean, it was a great pop. But he didn't wrap up and follow through, so he just bounced off of him and ended up scoring still. But I think that could have, some impact on it. Barry Odom wasn't able to get more hands-on with the defense. And then, we're in week 7 of the season, so some guys are probably tired. I know they're banged up. They're hurting. It's big D1 college football. I'm sure hitting every week or every weekend, you get tired of it, and you do kind of get lazy towards the end of the season. But I think, Barry Odom will be able to be the kind of defensive coach he is. He'll get it straight for the LSU game.
Staying on the subject of Coach Barry, I've never seen a coach make such a drastic impact immediately as this defensive coach. I know. Have you ever heard of a defensive coach or defensive coordinator making more than the head coach?
No, I've never. I don't think many coordinators will ever make more than a head coach. But in Arkansas's case, if we're going to keep Barry Odom, I mean, somebody's got to get the checkbook out and pay whatever they need to if we're going to keep him. I don't think he'll leave this year, but next year, he may start looking around to see where head coaches are needed. Barry Odom's a great coach. He will be a head coach again, no matter how much Arkansas wants to pay him. Maybe if Pittman leaves, we can hire him as a head coach. But yeah, and we're definitely going to have to throw him some money. Everybody in Arkansas knows that we're going to have to give him a raise at the end of the season. Just, this turnaround is amazing.
All right, so the LSU game, November 21st at 11 a.m. this Saturday. What's your pick? What's the score?
I'm going to go with Arkansas, of course. I got to. We're favored for the first time, like you said, in forever. Although I've seen a lot of people were favored, but everybody's still picking LSU to beat us. And they're still going off last year and how Arkansas was 2-10 and blah 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 blah. This is a new Arkansas team. We'll have Sam Pittman back. Everything should be normal. We should have a few guys back from injuries if they were hurt. I'm gonna say Arkansas will win. I'll go 31-28. I'll keep it close, but I'll go 31-28 Arkansas. I just think that LSU they're not a bad team. They just have a few too many problems going on. We're at Arkansas, so I think that'll have a big impact on the game. And Arkansas will be fired up. We actually are playing hard. It's LSU. They want to get the boot back. I see it being like the 2014 game when Bielema won. Yeah, when Bielema won his first SEC game, we beat him 17-0. I could see it being that kind of energy going down, in Fayetteville, or our players just come out, they're going to come out hungry, fired up, and I think we're going to get one on LSU.
All right. Well, speaking of Coach Burt, old Burt, what's the deal going on with the Patriots in the lawsuit, or they're not wanting to pay him, or he's not wanting to acknowledge the under the table payments from the Patriots, so he can get all of his money from the Hogs, or seems like kind of some shady stuff going on there.
Yeah, I don't know the full story behind it, but I know he's kind of getting one over on Arkansas right now because it was in the contract he couldn't get a job that paid him an X amount, So he went and got a job that paid him just below that, so Arkansas could keep paying him, and he was still working and all this. I don't know the full story on it, but I do know it was some shady stuff, that went down between all that.
All right, Hog fans, you heard it here first. What's next for the Arkansas Razorbacks? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check back next week for the Arkansas-Missouri game, November 28th. Thanks. Talk to you later.